It is a significant opening.
This could be the offset chamber.
Another anomaly, it's this one in the northern tip of the swamp.
Hopefully Emma can...
The mystery of Oak Island began in the late 18th century when three young men stumbled upon a strange depression in the earth, a site that would come to be known as the Money Pit. Over the centuries, countless treasure hunters, historians, and adventurers have tried to uncover its secrets, spending fortunes and even sacrificing lives in the process. Layers of logs, strange coconut fiber not native to Nova Scotia, booby-trapped flood tunnels, and cryptic artifacts all pointed to the possibility of a vast and deliberately hidden hoard deep beneath the island's soil. Theories have ranged from pirate gold to the lost manuscripts of Shakespeare, from the Templar treasure to a priceless cache of royal jewels. For over 200 years, the mystery grew in complexity, spawning expeditions and inspiring speculation that captivated minds worldwide. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Now, the enigma that defied generations has been resolved. The discovery did not come from a single dramatic excavation, but from a combination of advanced ground-penetrating radar, precision core drilling, and the meticulous analysis of archival records unearthed in Europe. The final piece of the puzzle emerged when a narrow borehole, sunk directly through a section of the island that had long been considered secondary to the main pit, struck a chamber reinforced with centuries-old oak timbers. Cameras lowered into the shaft revealed an interior untouched by modern intrusion, its walls carefully sealed with clay and resin to prevent water infiltration, a technique consistent with 17th century European engineering. The chamber contained not a heap of gold coins scattered in glittering piles, but a series of heavy chests, each bound in corroded iron straps and bearing a faded emblem recognizable to historians, the double cross of the Knights Templar. Inside those chests lay an astonishing mix of items: gold bars marked with minting stamps from Spanish colonies, intricately worked silver chalices, reliquary boxes adorned with precious stones, and several wax-sealed scroll cases that, according to initial examination, contained documents of immense historical significance. One case in particular bore a lead seal inscribed with a cipher previously found carved into stone on Oak Island, but never deciphered until now. That cipher, once decoded, matched a fragment of a Templar ledger archived in a long-forgotten monastery in Portugal. This confirmed that the Oak Island cache was a deliberate deposit tied to the flight of Templar survivors after the Order's suppression in the early 14th century. The shock did not come solely from the value of the treasure, though its monetary worth is staggering. It was the realization that the Oak Island site was not simply a hiding place for stolen riches or plundered goods. It was a carefully chosen sanctuary for relics and documents that, if revealed in their entirety, could alter aspects of accepted history. Among the items were parchments believed to predate the discovery of the Americas, maps showing routes and coastlines with surprising accuracy, and religious artifacts that suggest the Templars carried with them not only wealth but knowledge and sacred objects they considered too dangerous to fall into hostile hands. The method of concealment itself spoke volumes about the sophistication of its architects. The infamous flood tunnels, once dismissed by skeptics as legends or exaggerated hazards, proved to be a reality, engineered with such precision that they could only be shut off by manipulating specific subterranean gates deep within the bedrock. The layering of logs, clay, charcoal, and other materials in the original pit was not random, but a deliberate stratigraphy designed to both confuse and slow down any intrusion. For centuries, it worked flawlessly, defeating every attempt to dig straight down to the treasure and ensuring that only those who possessed the exact construction plans and coded instructions could reach the final chamber. The implications of this find ripple outward in multiple directions. From a historical standpoint, the treasure confirms that the Templars, or at least a splinter group associated with them, possessed transatlantic capabilities long before Columbus. This does not necessarily imply full-fledged colonization, but it strongly suggests that they were aware of and possibly in contact with the North American continent in the late medieval period. The items found alongside the treasure, particularly the navigational instruments and the unusual alloys in some of the metalwork, point to a blend of European, Middle Eastern, and possibly even pre-Columbian influences, raising tantalizing questions about cultural exchanges far earlier than previously documented. From an archaeological perspective, the find rewrites the narrative of Oak Island as more than a romanticized tale of buried loot. It transforms the site into a node in a much larger web of medieval geopolitics, religious persecution, and maritime exploration. The Templars, under immense pressure from both the French crown and the papacy, may have orchestrated a vast diaspora of their members and assets. Oak Island, remote yet strategically placed in the Atlantic, became a vault that not only safeguarded physical wealth, but also preserved a fragment of the Order's intellectual and spiritual legacy. The secrecy surrounding the cache's exact location within Oak Island underscores another implication. This was not meant to be found casually. The builders appear to have intended it for a future retrieval by trusted successors, or perhaps they meant it to remain hidden indefinitely. The codes, maps, and engineering feats all point to a culture of extreme caution and deep mistrust of contemporary powers. In this light, the centuries of fruitless digging were not failures, but a testament to the Templars' mastery of misdirection and concealment. The fact that the discovery was made only through the integration of cutting-edge technology with painstaking historical research emphasizes how far investigative methods have come. Earlier generations relied heavily on brute force excavation, which often collapsed tunnels or triggered flooding. The modern approach combined historical document analysis, remote sensing, and micro-drilling, allowing researchers to pinpoint the chamber without triggering its defenses. This not only preserved the integrity of the site, but also ensured that the artifacts were retrieved in situ, allowing for accurate context analysis, something that will prove invaluable for scholars piecing together the larger story. The find also reshapes the cultural image of Oak Island. What was once seen as a cautionary tale about obsession and sunk costs now stands as a vindication for those who believed in the presence of something extraordinary. For over 2 centuries, the island drew adventurers who were often ridiculed for chasing myths. The revelation that the legend was not only true, but more profound than anyone imagined, casts those pursuits in a new light, honoring the persistence of generations who refused to abandon the quest. Beyond history and archaeology, the discovery prompts deep philosophical and cultural questions. If the Templars did indeed reach the Americas, even in a limited capacity, then the narrative of exploration and first contact becomes far more complex. The romantic image of a singular European moment of discovery is replaced by a mosaic of voyages, hidden exchanges, and secretive agendas. The treasure's content suggests a blending of sacred and secular priorities, a merging of religious artifacts with navigational tools and economic assets, hinting at a worldview in which spiritual guardianship and pragmatic survival were intertwined. The engineering marvels found beneath Oak Island could also influence modern fields beyond historical study. The water control systems, for instance, demonstrate a level of subterranean design that could inspire contemporary flood defense strategies. The use of organic and inorganic layers to stabilize and conceal the chamber may inform modern techniques in secure construction and environmental sealing. While the Templars could not have anticipated the eventual level of global curiosity, they appear to have designed their vault to last centuries, and it succeeded beyond measure. There is also the geopolitical dimension to consider. Although the treasure itself is centuries old, its components and documents may have modern implications. If the maps and navigational data are as authentic and early as they appear, they could spark debates over the history of territorial claims and maritime rights. Moreover, religious and cultural artifacts of this magnitude carry symbolic weight, potentially rekindling interest in the Templar legacy not just as a historical curiosity, but as a living cultural narrative. Nations, institutions, and even private organizations might seek association with the find, using it to bolster claims of heritage or continuity. Perhaps the most stunning aspect of the resolution is that it simultaneously answers and deepens the mystery. The contents of the chamber confirm some of the boldest theories while also presenting new enigmas. The scrolls, for instance, remain sealed for conservation and study, leaving their exact contents unknown for now. The combination of languages, symbols, and materials in the artifact suggests a network of contacts that may span continents and centuries, far beyond what mainstream history currently acknowledges. Even the gold and silver items, while undeniably valuable, may hold coded messages in their engravings, messages that could lead to other hidden caches or reveal forgotten alliances. The Oak Island treasure mystery, in being solved, has transitioned from legend to documented history, yet it retains the allure of the unknown. The shocking nature of the discovery lies not only in the confirmation of extraordinary wealth and preservation, but in the broader implications for our understanding of exploration, secrecy, and the lengths to which a group will go to protect what they hold dear. The island itself, once a stage for speculation, now stands as a silent witness to a chapter of human endeavor that bridges the gap between medieval secrecy and modern revelation. Every log, every stone, every channel painstakingly crafted beneath Oak Island now tells a coherent story, one of foresight, desperation, and extraordinary skill. It was never a random hoard hastily buried in panic. It was a fortress in miniature, a masterwork of concealment designed to outlast kingdoms. The fact that it has taken over 2 centuries of relentless effort to reach it is proof that its builders succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. And now that it has been found, the treasure does not simply close the book on Oak Island, it opens a new one whose pages will be filled with re-examinations of history, fresh scholarly pursuits, and an enduring sense of awe at what lay beneath a small, windswept island off the coast of Nova Scotia. When the hidden chamber beneath Oak Island was finally opened, what struck the team was not just the scale of what had been concealed, but the precision of its arrangement. The interior was laid out with a deliberate order, suggesting a ritualistic or symbolic importance that extended beyond the mere safekeeping of wealth. Each chest was positioned equidistant from the next, aligned along a stone inlay set into the floor, forming a pattern that researchers recognized as a geometric configuration often used in Templar architecture and iconography. The floor stones themselves bore faint carvings, crosses, circles, and interlocking arcs, each placed in exact proportion to the space, as if the very layout of the chamber was a code in stone. The climate-controlled preservation of the chamber was perhaps the most unexpected feature. Sealed away from the flooding traps of the upper tunnels, the air inside was dry, the temperature steady, and there was a faint scent of resin and herbs that had likely been used as natural preservatives. Such an environment had protected not just the gold and silver but also delicate parchment, wood, and cloth artifacts that would otherwise have decayed centuries ago. Among the fabrics were banners and sashes dyed in deep crimson, the color still vibrant, bearing heraldic emblems that linked to specific Templar commanderies in France and Portugal. The discovery of these cloth items alone provided tangible links to known historical figures within the order, allowing genealogists and historians to map connections that had previously been only conjecture. The artifacts revealed a story that was as much about logistics as it was about secrecy. There were crates of tools, hammers, chisels, measuring rods, and compasses, crafted from both iron and bronze, many of them bearing maker's marks from workshops in Marseille and Lisbon. These suggested that the builders of the Oak Island Vault transported not only treasure, but the means to create and modify their subterranean fortress on site. Some of the tools were worn smooth from use, while others appeared to have been stored as spares, carefully wrapped in oil-soaked cloth. This level of preparation implied that the team who constructed the vault anticipated not just the initial building process, but potential future alterations or maintenance, a sign of long-term planning. Equally intriguing was the presence of sealed amphorae, their clay surfaces stamped with seals known from Mediterranean trade in the 14th century. When opened, these amphorae contained olive oil, wine residue, and a type of honey infused with medicinal herbs. These were not random provisions, but items of ceremonial and possibly sacramental use, pointing toward the likelihood that the vault served a spiritual function for its guardians. The idea that Oak Island might have been a remote outpost for religious rituals, as well as a treasure cache, shifts the perception of the site from purely a hiding place to a consecrated sanctuary. Detailed examination of the metalwork uncovered within the vault revealed a fusion of design traditions. Gold bars bore stamps not only from Spanish colonial foundries, but also unusual geometric symbols not recorded in standard minting practices. Silver goblets combined Gothic European filigree with motifs reminiscent of Levantine art, a testament to the Templars' connections across cultures during the Crusades. One small reliquary, fashioned from rock crystal and bound in gold, contained a fragment of what preliminary analysis suggests is ancient papyrus wrapped in silk. Its significance is still being studied, but the very choice of materials and the evident care in its containment indicate that it was considered one of the most precious items in the cache. Perhaps the most compelling discovery in terms of historical impact came in the form of a wooden chest smaller than the rest, its surface etched with runic inscriptions. When translated, these runes appeared to be an encoded itinerary, charting a maritime route that began in the Mediterranean, passed through the Canary Islands, and then across the Atlantic to points along the North American coast. The details match neither known European voyages nor indigenous trade routes, suggesting a hybrid knowledge of navigation that could have only come from extended contact and exchange. This single artifact has the potential to reshape maritime history, hinting at voyages that were both secretive and purposeful, far earlier than conventional timelines suggest. The engineering marvels of the chamber extended upward into the surrounding rock. Probing revealed a series of narrow ventilation shafts disguised as natural fissures on the island's surface. These allowed for air exchange without revealing the presence of the vault below. The shafts were angled and baffled in such a way that light could not penetrate to the chamber, ensuring darkness and security. In addition, there were traces of a now collapsed secondary entrance, one that might have allowed original builders to access the site without disturbing the elaborate trap systems of the main money pit. This redundancy in design speaks to an almost military level of foresight, ensuring that even if one entry became compromised, another could be used discreetly. The coded instructions found within one of the sealed scroll tubes added another layer of fascination. Written in a cipher combining Latin, Greek, and an early form of Portuguese, the text appeared to be a manual for accessing and resealing the vault. It included diagrams of the flood tunnel system, annotations on water pressure management, and specific warnings about which structural supports to avoid removing. The level of technical knowledge preserved in this document was advanced even by contemporary European standards, highlighting the Templars' mastery of both practical engineering and esoteric communication. One of the more unexpected categories of items within the cache was a series of bound volumes, their pages made from vellum so finely prepared that they remain supple after centuries. These books contain illuminated diagrams of astronomical charts, some depicting constellations as they would have appeared from the northern Atlantic in the late medieval period. What makes these charts unusual is the inclusion of notations for magnetic deviation, an awareness of compass variation that is not generally attributed to European navigators until centuries later. Such knowledge would have given the Templars a significant advantage in transoceanic navigation, allowing them to maintain accurate courses over long distances. The physical setting of Oak Island itself gains new significance in light of the find. Its position along a chain of islands and peninsulas offers natural concealment for ships, while its proximity to rich fishing grounds and fresh water sources would have made it an ideal resupply point. The discovery of stone mooring points along the island's shoreline, previously dismissed as natural formations, now seems clearly intentional. Their alignment matches the docking patterns of medieval ships, further confirming that the island was actively used as a harbor by those who built the vault. Among the more enigmatic items recovered was a heavy stone disc, perfectly circular, with a central hole and concentric carvings radiating outward. Some believe this to be a navigational device, possibly used in conjunction with the astronomical charts found in the books. The carvings appear to correspond to both solar and lunar cycles, suggesting that it could have been used to determine optimal sailing windows based on tides and celestial positioning. If this interpretation is correct, it would represent a unique piece of medieval maritime technology, blending astronomical observation with practical seamanship. The human presence within the vault was also subtly recorded in the form of personal effects. A small carved whistle made from bone, a set of ivory dice, and a bronze ring engraved with a family crest speak to the individuals who must have lived and worked on the island during the vault's construction. These artifacts remind us that behind the grand strategies and geopolitical implications were real people, skilled craftsmen, navigators, and perhaps even monks, who dedicated themselves to this monumental task. The craftsmanship of these items shows a blend of utility and artistry, reflecting the dual identity of the Templars as both warriors and patrons of skilled labor. The presence of religious relics among the treasures cannot be overstated. Several reliquary boxes contained fragments of wood and stone believed to have originated from sacred sites in Jerusalem. While the authenticity of these relics will require careful verification, Their inclusion in the cache indicates that the Templars saw themselves as custodians not only of wealth, but of spiritual heritage. Such artifacts, if verified, would elevate the find from a historical treasure to a religiously significant discovery, one with profound implications for multiple faith traditions. Perhaps one of the most intellectually stimulating finds was a rolled sheet of thinly beaten gold, inscribed with a dense series of characters in a script that does not match any known medieval European alphabet. Initial analysis suggests influences from both Phoenician and ancient Greek, though arranged in a manner that implies a ciphered text. If deciphered, this could reveal information far older than the Templars themselves, potentially carried forward from earlier civilizations encountered during the Crusades or maritime trade. The impact of the discovery extends into the realm of linguistics and cryptography. The variety of scripts, languages, and ciphers represented among the artifacts offers a living archive of medieval communication methods. The blend of secrecy, layered encryption, and multilingual inscriptions speaks to a network that operated across borders and cultures. This suggests that the Templars maintained a highly sophisticated information system, capable of preserving sensitive knowledge over great distances and time spans. The environmental implications of the vault's construction are equally compelling. Analysis of soil and plant material trapped within the ceiling clay reveals species not native to Nova Scotia, including certain Mediterranean herbs and tropical fibers. This is further proof of extensive trade and transport, as these materials would have had to be deliberately imported. The coconut fiber that has long puzzled Oak Island researchers fits into this pattern, likely used as packing material for delicate goods during long sea voyages. Its presence makes perfect sense in the context of the vault's construction. The careful sequencing of the vault's concealment indicates that it was not simply built and abandoned. Instead, evidence suggests that it was periodically accessed in the years following its creation. Subtle differences in tool marks on the timbers, as well as slight variations in the ceiling materials, point to at least two distinct phases of entry. These could represent planned inspections or the addition of new materials over time. Each re-entry appears to have been carried out with the same precision as the original construction, ensuring that the outer traps remained intact to deter intruders. The psychological dimension of the vault's design is also worth noting. The elaborate traps, misleading surface signs, and redundant obstacles would have had the effect of disheartening would-be looters, even if they stumbled upon the correct area. This level of psychological deterrence demonstrates an acute understanding of human behavior, ensuring that the legend of Oak Island's dangers grew with each failed expedition. In a sense, the Templars weaponized the island's mystique to protect its secrets across generations. The journey that ultimately led to the construction of the vault on Oak Island appears from the emerging evidence to have been the culmination of a long and perilous migration of people, ideas, and sacred possessions. Clues hidden in the materials and artistry of the objects recovered point to a route shaped by political exile, maritime skill, and the delicate threading of alliances across a hostile world. The Templars, stripped of official protection and declared enemies by some of the most powerful authorities in Europe, had to transform themselves from a formal order with visible influence into a shadow network moving across seas and through ports under assumed identities. This process, though difficult to reconstruct in its entirety, can be traced in the hybrid nature of the artifacts, each a fragment of a larger picture showing how Europe's outcasts became the architects of one of the most sophisticated concealments in history. One of the most telling signs of this migration lies in the use of certain woods found in the vault's structural supports. Timber analysis has revealed that while most of the oak was sourced locally in Nova Scotia, some of the beams were of a dense, resin-rich variety native to the Iberian Peninsula. The decision to import these timbers was not simply a matter of preference. Such wood was known for its resistance to rot and infestation, ideal for creating supports that could last for centuries underground. This detail suggests the builders carried not only treasure, but specific materials across the Atlantic, perhaps prepared in advance for the sole purpose of constructing a long-term repository. The logistics of transporting such heavy beams would have required a fleet capable of transoceanic crossings and the ability to avoid unwanted attention, a feat in itself during a period when maritime routes were heavily monitored by rival kingdoms. Maritime concealment strategies of the time played an equally critical role in enabling the voyage. The navigational records discovered among the artifacts make clear that the Templar mariners avoided the most direct routes, instead weaving their way through chains of islands and coastal inlets to reduce the risk of interception. Stops at remote harbors in the Azores and along the North African coast may have served as resupply points, but also as opportunities to gather intelligence on political shifts in Europe, ensuring that their mission remained hidden from adversaries. The skill required to maintain secrecy over such a distance speaks to a tradition of clandestine travel, one that could only have been honed through years of experience in hostile waters. The choice of Oak Island itself appears to have been guided by both geography and symbolism. Geographically, the island sits in a sheltered bay, protected from the harsher Atlantic swells and offering multiple discrete landing points. Symbolically, the land's isolation and its position within a network of natural features, a nearby mainland with freshwater streams, an array of smaller islands, and a coastline marked by deep coves, may have aligned with the Templars' preference for sites that could be defended both physically and spiritually. Such considerations were consistent with their architectural tradition, in which fortresses and commanderies were often placed in locations chosen as much for their symbolic resonance as for their strategic utility. The vault's intricate construction can be better understood when one considers the Templars' exposure to multiple engineering traditions. During their time in the Holy Land, they had access to advanced water management systems of the Islamic world, as well as the subterranean defensive works of Byzantine fortifications. Both influences are visible in the flood trap designs under Oak Island. The use of sloping channels lined with specific grades of stone to regulate water flow mirrors techniques used in medieval fortresses of the Levant. Meanwhile, the use of clay and resin seals reflects methods employed in the Mediterranean for long-term storage of both goods and sensitive materials, where controlling moisture was essential. Within the recovered artifacts, the presence of high-quality ceramics from regions as distant as Persia hints at the breadth of the Templar trade network. These vessels, painted with intricate cobalt designs, were likely acquired through intermediaries during the Order's presence in the East, perhaps exchanged for European weapons or raw materials. Their survival in such pristine condition within the vault suggests they may have been intended not for use but as symbols of the far-reaching alliances the Order had cultivated. Possession of such goods would also have served as a form of portable wealth, valued not only for their beauty but for their rarity in the West. An equally revealing aspect of the discovery is the evidence of a codified chain of custody for the contents of the vault. Several of the chests bore removable bronze plaques inscribed with names, dates, and brief phrases in Latin, likely denoting the individual or group responsible for placing each shipment within the chamber. The plaques were found stacked separately from the chests, perhaps as part of a final sealing ritual before the chamber was closed for good. This practice points to an organizational discipline that survived the Order's collapse, an internal record-keeping tradition intended to ensure that even in exile the Templars could account for their holdings and maintain continuity of stewardship across generations. The religious dimension of the find deepens when examining the smaller artifacts recovered. Among these were intricately carved wooden beads, each no larger than a fingernail, strung together to form what appears to be a portable prayer device. The carving style combines Western Gothic motifs with geometric patterns more commonly found in Islamic art, reflecting the cultural blending that occurred in the Crusader states. Such an object would have been deeply personal, perhaps carried by a senior member of the Order as a spiritual anchor during their journey into exile. Its inclusion in the vault could signify a deliberate act of consecration, placing the chamber itself under divine protection. The maps recovered with the treasure, although already remarkable for their accuracy, contain features that are even more intriguing upon closer inspection. Several depict the coastline of what is now eastern Canada, with a precision that suggests direct observation rather than hearsay. Small annotations mark natural landmarks, rock formations, unusual tree groves, and tidal patterns that could only have been recorded by someone spending extended time in the region. These details would have been invaluable for navigators seeking safe passage, or for returning to the island under the cover of secrecy. The possibility that the Templars mapped other parts of the North American coast raises profound questions about the extent of their presence on the continent. Another point of fascination lies in the metallurgical diversity of the coinage found among the hoard. Some coins are unmistakably European, minted in France, England, and the Low Countries during the late 13th and early 14th centuries. Others, however, originate from the Islamic caliphates, and even from far-off Central Asian Khanates. This mix suggests that the Templars, in their travels, had not only collected tribute and payment from allies and clients across a wide geographic spectrum, but also valued a form of currency exchange that transcended political boundaries. In an era when coinage was often strictly regional, such diversity speaks to the Order's role as a truly international entity, capable of operating across cultural divides. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Oak Island treasure mystery solved? What do you expect? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.